Dennis. I'd like to call to order the City Planning Board meeting for Thursday, February 1st, 2024, 7 p.m., held at Peabody City Hall, Wigan Auditorium, 24 Lowell Street, Peabody, Massachusetts. This meeting is being broadcast at Public Access TV. First item on the business is approval of the minutes of the January 18, 2024 meeting.
Mr. Chairman, move to approve the minutes of the January 18th, 2024 Planning Board meeting.
We have a second?
Second.
Second.
We have a second. We have a second. All those in favor?
Present.
Next item on the...
That'd be a no vote then, because we wouldn't have a quorum to do that. So we'll push those meeting minutes off to the next meeting.
Next item on the agenda is site building permit plan for 54 Prospect Street, map 51, lots 4, 4A, 4B, 4C, and 4D.
Mr. Chairman, just before Attorney Kelty here begins his presentation, I just wanted to provide the board with an update that in your packets on your desk this evening, you should see a couple late ads in there, one of which provided by Rob Langley, Director of Engineering. It is titled, I believe, it's his closeout memo on this property, and it included the peer reviews that were received as well. You would have also received on your desk a memo from the Community Development Department with a few proposed conditions in there, and we also have, if needed, you would have received digitally, but we have hard copies as well that was provided by Attorney Kelty, an affordable housing application that the board, if you read the memo from Community Development, if you so choose to accept these late ads, talks about the affordable housing component on that. So Attorney Kelty is here to present on this project.
Mr. Chairman, in the matter of 54 Prospect Street, I would move to receive 3 late ads. The first being a memo from Robert Langley, Director of Engineering, dated January 28th, 2024. Second being a memo from Andrew Levin, Senior Planner, City of Peabody, dated January 30th, 2024. And 30, a affordable housing application to the City of Peabody put forth by David and Roland Lemieux, 54 Prospect Street, Peabody, Mass. John R. Kelty, Esquire, is the representative. And move to receive.
We have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes, Mr. Kelty.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My name is John Kelty, 40 Lowell Street, Peabody, Mass. Appearing on behalf of the Lemieux brothers, who are the applicants for site plan approval at 5054 Prospect Street here in Peabody. As you recall, this is a matter that is not first blush. We came here a couple of years ago with a larger project. Now we've downsized that project, modified it as to creating apartments that are uniform with respect to all being 2-bedroom. And we've gone through now site plan review. We have a closeout memorandum that makes several recommendations, and then also a community development memorandum this evening that suggests in its conditions that we adopt the conditions provided in the DPS closeout memorandum. My clients are here this evening and have reviewed both of those, both this evening's memorandum and its proposed conditions, and would be happy to accept the conditions as recommended by the board, and we would, if appropriate, seek a vote this evening.
Any questions from the board?
Mr. Chairman, I'd just like to point out that you would have received some revised set of plans at a previous meeting. This project originally was submitted, as Attorney Kelty had mentioned, showing construction of 4 new buildings at 36 units. It's now down to 3 new buildings at 26 units. Per our affordable housing, they'll provide 4 units at affordable rents. It was originally proposed with 2 access egress curb cuts onto Prospect Street. It is now showing 1 access egress as well. That would have shown in the revised plans. And then you would have found in the conditions provided by Mr. Langley some items regarding engineering, but it sounds like the applicants are well aware of those. And then the memo from planning just, asks that this be conditioned to follow the affordable housing rules, but also that all lighting on the property be downlit and shielded, especially that on the exterior side or on the building, and to follow the memo of of Mr. Langley.
The additional Langley memorandum had provided us with our I&I number and with a pedestrian improvements with a dollar figure on that.
I have a question through the chair to Attorney Kelty. Has your client gotten together with the Historic Commission about that marker stone? Is that all ironed out?
We've never been invited to appear before them. We did send them notice and a copy of the plan exhibiting that we were not removing that remained, and it's actually located in a position where it can remain. So they've not returned, not gotten back to me asking to be.
Sounds like no news is good news. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, in the matter of 5054 Prospect Street, I would recommend permit to issue with the following conditions. 3 conditions laid out in Mr. Levin's memo of the 30th of January shall now become compulsory conditions. And the 12 recommended conditions laid out in Mr. Langley's memo of January 28th will now become compulsory conditions.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Mr. Chairman, I just ask that a roll call be taken for this.
Mr. John Ford?
Yes.
Attorney Peter Arvanites? Yes. Mr. Roy Simos?
Yes.
Mr. Dennis Feld?
Yes.
And Mr. Thomas Betancourt?
Yes.
5-0.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is 8 Centennial Drive, map 091, lot 006.
John Kelty, representing the applicant. This evening, we wanted to take a few minutes of your time in order to, this is a very large project, and we've working our way through site plan review and simultaneously working our way through the permitting process with the Conservation Commission. There have been a lot of work done, some changes, and I think my team this evening would like to take a few minutes of your time in order to update you on the direction they're headed in, methodology they're employing in doing this. And with that, I would introduce Steve Morris to you on behalf of the project from Tishman Spire.
I also have Tim Hool on here as well,
Yeah,
if needed. And I have your presentation queued up if you need to.
Great. Yeah. Well, thank you, Jack, and thank you, everyone, for the time this evening. We're excited to be before you again to discuss 8 Centennial Drive. You may remember we were last here before you in early November, and we've made a lot of progress over the last handful of months, working closely with the peer reviewers and addressing their comments. If you want to go pull up the presentation and maybe go to page 2. Again, I'm Stephen Morris. I'm here on behalf of the proponent and applicant. Joining me is John Pelletier, who is our head of design and construction for the project. Online, I believe we have Tim Hool, who is the site civil engineer for the project and can answer any more specific questions. Along with the rest of the project team, we have Ann Martin from LEC, who is our wetlands engineer. Our traffic consultant is VHB and Ryan White, and obviously Jack is assisting us on the counsel and attorney side. We thought today it'd be helpful to just refresh everyone on the project since it has been a couple of months, and then provide an update on where we are in the peer review process, and certainly jump into questions. I'll try and be as brief as I can. Go to the next slide. So again, this is just a quick site aerial. This is the Analogic site right off of I-95. Analogic's been there for a number of decades. You can see their building there in the background, and they're in the foreground, their parking lots with Centennial Drive and the water tower to the east. You scroll down. So the site is currently improved by about a 500,000 square foot office and manufacturing building that's entirely analogic. It's been built over a number of years and a couple of expansions. Also has 1,300 parking spaces and a handful of curb cuts along Centennial Drive. Again, our project is a plan to demolish and raise the entire site, kind of level it to be able to develop warehouse product. If you want to go to the next page. And the plan is largely similar to what you saw last time, the orientation of the buildings, the parking, the truck courts, but it's 4 buildings, 700,000 square feet of warehouse use and distribution use with parking, ancillary parking around for the employees, and we've reduced the curb cuts along Centennial from 4 to 3. From a timeline perspective, nothing has changed from our side. We're continuing to work through with this group and also with the Conservation Commission, hoping that we could start close on the land with Analogic and have them have about a year while they're figuring out their plans, and then commence site work and kind of demolition in the first half of 2025 to start construction in the second half and be delivering buildings on a kind of a phased basis in 2027 and 2028. From a process perspective, at a high level, obviously, we were before the board a handful of months ago where it was approved and released the peer reviewers. We've been in close coordination with those groups and addressing any questions, concerns they've had, jumped on the phone with them to discuss, and my colleague Tim and or John can help address any specifics. We submitted a number of responses to all of their comments last week with revised drawings, which I think should be, you all are in receipt of. And we presented to the Conservation Commission twice over the last couple of months and similarly responded to their comments last week. At a high level, the peer review comments on the next page. So Ty and Bond is doing the traffic and transportation peer review. We provided them some updated traffic counts and studies late in the year that they requested. Most of their comments have been largely technical. Within the site, they've asked that we mark, crosswalks and double yellow line streets and things like that. And again, we provided some additional support and comments to them late last week. I think we got a receipt from them of some of their other notes, similarly technical, and maybe some mitigation for certain intersections. We got that, I think, earlier today. So we're still digesting that. On the site and stormwater side, for the Conservation Commission's peer reviewer, Horsley Witten, been in coordination with them. Again, very technical questions, how we're diagramming, catch basins and things like that for the drainage. On the water side, we got comments from Weston and Sampson. And again, it's very more just clarifying questions where certain things are in the drawings, labeling things correctly, and just kind of fleshing out the details more. So I think that kind of concludes my preamble, and we can certainly dive into any details you may have that, and if I can't answer, John or Tim, who's online, can as well. And Tim's ready, and I think has all the drawings ready to pull up if there's any details we wanted to jump into. Thank you.
Do we have any questions from the board?
Just one. Hi. So, other than the stuff you mentioned on the last page here, and then going from 4 curb cuts to 3, there's no other significant changes like size of buildings, height of buildings, location, orientation, nothing like that?
No, the buildings are all largely in the same place. Some paving areas may shift. I think some of the transportation comments were change of turning radius, for trucks to turn or avoid cars, but where the buildings are is all largely the same, and so is the count for parking and trailer stalls and things like that.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Could you refresh my memory on the height of these buildings?
They're going to be 40 feet.
And you have an environmental person here?
Ann, I don't believe, is on the Zoom at the moment. She's our from LEC, Ann Martin.
Oh, I was just going to ask for a little rundown on the wetlands area that's on the northwest portion of this property.
That's right.
Does anybody have?
I'll do my best to address it, but I know that we're largely pulling back from the current paved area next to the wetlands. The parking lots kind of go right up to it right now, so we're pulling back and improving the condition. There's no wetlands improvements there. There's nothing to stop the runoff that's coming off those parking lots now. So our plan is to install, and forgive me if this is not technically correct, but a lot of places to collect the stormwater, store it, filter it, so when it discharges into the wetlands, it's much cleaner than what's running off today.
Probably going to be more of a filtering system than a storing system.
We're going to have underground storage for stormwater. We'll have, you can kind of see on the plan on page, Tim is relieving me of trying to speak to the technical details, so.
Hey, Tim, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me?
We can, but are you close to your microphone? It's coming in a little muffled.
Is that any better?
That is a little bit better, yep.
So, yeah, I think I can step in a little bit here and help clarify.
Sorry, I got him.
Yeah.
I can't hear him.
Sorry, Tim, we can't hear you that well.
Is that any better?
No, that's worse.
All right, well, I guess we'll address that.
Tim, can you try one more time? I think we might have got it.
Okay, is that any better?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, so
Barely.
I'm Tim Houle, the site civil engineer here, and I think I can step in to help answer this question a little bit. As Steve mentioned, we are pulling back the limits of paving from existing conditions. So there's a net improvement just by
I'm sorry,
pulling
it's
that
falling
paving
on deaf
back.
ears here, so.
So sorry, Tim, we're having a little bit of trouble hearing you on our end, but what I can reiterate from what I heard is that they have a net improvement because they're pulling back on pavement, it sounds like, from the project.
I understood that.
And in addition to that, in terms of storage, we're going to put ponds in certain areas on the site, low points on the site, as well as chambers underneath the areas of pavement to kind of store and collect when there's a lot of rain, that it's not all running off. So there will be overflow storage and then filtration when it does discharge.
Well, I'm sure what's happening up there now is that just surface runoff is running to that corner.
Yep. So
Yes,
the site kind of crests to the east, so a lot is running into that wetland and a little bit down towards the highway. On the east side, there's a wetland, but right now there's no treatment and it's all kind of just flying off.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
Drew, I don't know if you can hear me, I can clarify a little more.
Hey, Tim, sorry, it's coming in pretty muffled on our end. We really can't hear you.
My apologies.
Have any other questions from the board?
Just a couple questions. I know when you first came, we had chatted a little bit about the driveways to the property, and we had spoken, actually, I had spoken with Robert Langley to the traffic peer reviewer, and we talked about fan of cutting back on the curb cuts. I think that would be very helpful in the area. Talking about really solidifying that these are roadways, as you know, I know they're driveways, but that we want to see these really act as roadways so that trucks aren't really parking in there. The peer reviewers makes a good point about circulation and wayfinding. I think that will be very important to make sure that no one is parking on Centennial waiting to pull in anywhere, so I think that will be really important. but it seems like you guys are working your way towards final approvals, and I could see probably you guys coming back sometime in the next month with hopefully everything. That's it. I guess the thing would be to ask for a continuance if you would like to, I don't know what meeting you want to go out to, but.
Yep, yeah, last great continuance. I think our team's already started on those traffic comments that we got, which I think were very helpful, constructive, especially wayfinding and signage. It's going to be a lot of, different users for this site, and making sure there's no conflicts is going to be important. But yeah, I think Jack's point, a continuance, at least till the next meeting, and we can figure out if we'll have enough material to present to you then or not.
I guess actually just one question. You're, I guess, figuring you're going to have one sign probably in the front. It's going to call it some sort of, I don't know, Centennial Commons or something like that, and then.
Yeah, I think we might have two. I think what's labeled here is entrances 1 and 3. You might have more large signage because that will be kind of a arrival point for trucks. Curb cut 2 is more just employee parking for that one building. But yeah, I think the signage plan is something we need to flush out in more detail.
I will say community development is definitely against multiple signs out on the front of that street for multiple different businesses. So yeah, the less large signs on the front, the better.
One more question through the chair. I think I've asked this before, but so you guys have done your research, right? And you know that this is a viable product, right? That there's a need and a desire, and I can't imagine you spending all this kind of money to have vacant buildings, right? So
yeah,
okay.
if that happened, I'd have a big problem. But no, we.
Okay.
Yeah, no, we've definitely picked this point out on a map, and we think are delivering a product that users will really like. I mean, frankly, a lot of these kind of tenants are already in Centennial Business Park. There's companies like DB Schenker, Nippon Express, Expeditors, Wakefield Moving and Storage, who are kind of operating out of older product and making it work, given their businesses and for warehousing and then distribution. And we think this product is really sorely needed to, appeal to those tenants and help their business operate more efficiently here.
And the 40-foot height is probably for high vertical storage?
Yeah, it's for racking and storage and, be
Okay.
able to forklift, move things around. I think the critical thing is it's 40 feet to the top, and then there's obviously steel and things, and 36-foot, floor to the bottom of the beams is really kind of what tenants really desire.
I see.
A lot of other buildings in the park, or frankly, throughout the Boston area, are 28 to 32, so it really
see.
helps with their businesses.
So do you think that somebody could, like a prospective tenant could show up and say that they want to do R&D? Like light manufacturing R&D type stuff where they're going to...
Yeah, light manufacturing is certainly a possibility. It's not going to be life science manufacturing. We're not designing this to have, the tremendous amount of power and HVAC that those businesses need. But businesses like Analogic, maybe to a lesser extent, but who are making widgets, I guess, for lack of a better term, or manufacturing small things, we don't think it'll be all of the space, but certainly a portion of the space where they can manufacture pieces of their equipment and then, store it and then distribute it from the site.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board?
So with the completion of the presentation, I would suggest that we would like to appear back before the board on the 15th? 13th. Is it 15th? 15th, yeah. 2 weeks from today. Yeah. So I would respectfully request that this matter be continued till the 15th. If we are not further advanced, it could well be that I'd be asking to be off that agenda and into our March agenda, depending muchly on what happens next week at the Concom.
So you want to go out to the 15th?
Yep.
For us, okay. Mr. Chairman, in the matter of 8 Centennial Drive, I would move to grant the petitioner's request for an extension of time until February 15th.
We have a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 140 Summit Street, map 93, lot 8.
This is Attorney Kelty's project as well, 140 Summit Street.
Summit Street, I have with me a letter requesting that the board continue the matter until February 15th.
Mr. Chairman, in the matter of 140 Summit Street, I move to grant the petitioner's request for an extension of time until February 15th, 2024.
Second.
So we have a second. We have a second. All those in favor? Again, unanimous. Next item on the agenda is 0 Newberry Street, map 57, lot 74T.
I represent John R. Kelty, 40 Lowell Street, Peabody, Massachusetts, appearing on behalf of the applicant. We were earlier this week provided with peer review contracts by Mr. Langley. Those have been forwarded to my client. They will execute them, return them with the appropriate checks, and I think that I don't need to ask that this be continued since we're so early in the process, but I certainly would ask that this matter be continued to the meeting of February 15th.
Mr. Chairman, in the matter of, is this 0 Newbury? What's the 0 Newbury?
0 Newbury.
I move to grant the petitioner's request for an extension of time until February 15th, 2024.
We have a second.
Second.
All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is appointments. We have none. Subdivision Board action, none. Correspondence, Section F. Any questions on any of this correspondence? Hearing none. City Council, none. Other matters properly before the board?
Good evening, everyone. I'll try to keep this brief because we move kind of quick here, but as I had mentioned at the last meeting, we are currently undergoing our master plan update entitled Vision 2035. I'm quickly just pulling up a brief presentation that I have that I was forwarded from our consultant. Just bear with me 1 minute. I'm going to go to presentation mode, and I can't find it. So that's fun. Sorry, play from start. So, as many of you know, we're currently undergoing the update to our city's master plan. We're working with the firm Stantec on it. It is Vision 2035, creating a Peabody for all. The planning board, critical to the city of Peabody, critical to all development that happens in this city. So when speaking with Stantec, we said it's probably a good idea to reach out to the planning board and discuss with them said plan. I don't know why this is not going next slide. There we go. So quickly, just, I'm sure many of you know about the master plan. The last one, I believe, was updated in 2002. So master plans kind of take everything within this city and kind of lay out a strategy for our city moving forward. So it takes into account land use, housing, economic development, circulation, transportation, kind of hot topic, open space and recreation, service and facilities, sustainability and resiliency, and at the end of it, you get a implementable and actionable, I think implementable is probably not a word, an implementation guide and an actionable program, which is kind of how do we merge all of these things together, and then an action plan on how to go after them. So I can pose these questions to you and, the planning board and kind of get us thinking, what is our shared vision for the future of Peabody? How do we get those vision? How do we make that vision real? What do we do to do that? What are the policies that make this vision come to life, and the strategies that we need? So we've done a lot of conversation within the core team that's been discussing this plan, and I think the planning board is fairly critical to new development growth for the city of Peabody. And so, when they say, what's our shared vision for the city of Peabody, they're really looking for the planning board members here to provide what they think when it comes to development, whether it's in certain areas of the city. Kind of hot topic right now, Rousselot, but that's a large parcel of land. And then what are the goals to make that vision real? And our policies. And so what can the planning board be doing? Is it looking at traffic and implementing more transportation demand management policies? Is it looking at requiring more sustainable and green infrastructure? Is it requiring, things that are outside of the box that no one's ever been thought of before? So I don't know if anybody wants to provide what maybe they have on thoughts of, what they would like to see as like a shared vision for the future of the city, or, just pose these questions out. And if you want to shoot me an email after tonight, also works as well.
I'll just say one thing, that I think the group that you're working with needs to do something about traffic. And not just paint lines on roadways, and probably painful solutions, whether it involves taking land and widening roads and going from one lane each way to 2 lanes each way, or repurposing that railroad that will never be used again, that could somehow be used to siphon some traffic out of Peabody Square out to 128 or 95 or somewhere. It's just all the major thoroughfares in and out of Peabody Square are untenable at certain hours of the day. Linfield Street, Lowell Street, Andover Street. Summit, because of the on and off ramps when they put the exit for Centennial Drive, it became a nice shortcut to Lynn. So, something's got to be done, because we can't control what happens in Salem or Marblehead, and they cut through Peabody. And whatever dreams there are of those people stopping and shopping or going to restaurants in Peabody, those are just dreams, because they want to get home, or the other direction, they want to get to work. So that's all I got to say. I think that's a massive amount of work that's going to have to be done to attain that. So.
And that's something we are totally looking at and we're working on right now, whether it's, the bike paths that are going to be alternative transportation uses, or it's working with the MBTA on trying to get more service. These are things that we are hoping to move forwards. All right, so I'll move on to the next slide here. We don't have to add the text here, but, sorry, I went too fast. But, these are questions that we kind of pose to everybody, but what should Peabody be like in 10 years? We can keep kind of move through this quickly, but what are Peabody's strengths? What are some challenges? I guess that was all of them. But, we can kind of just chat about those questions. If you want, again, if you don't feel comfortable asking, you can also just email me afterwards if you want it as well. But I really asked the planning board, what do you see in the next 10 years for the city of Peabody? Is it new development in certain areas that there's maybe not development happening now? Is it less development in certain areas that development happening now? Traffic, is it providing more ways for vehicles to move around the city? You can really throw anything. What are the challenges? Again, traffic, is it overdevelopment or not enough development? So I pose these questions to the board. Your feedback is critical, like I said, so if the board doesn't wish to answer these now, they don't feel comfortable, you can send me an email with these. But this is what Vision 2035 is trying to do. The goal of this plan is to provide a actionable document that we can use as a city, all departments, in moving forward with the future of this city. So we'll be having more events as time goes on about Vision 2035, more public workshops. Right now, the consultant's working at a lot of data compiling with this plan, and I would have to believe that in the coming future, we'll probably have a public workshop to discuss maybe a skeleton of the draft plan as we start moving forward, but I'll make sure to keep the planning board involved at all steps. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. I have a motion.
Oh, and then I guess if we're just still under other things probably before the board, you guys thought you were getting out of here, you're not. It was brought to my attention this week that, and I was reached out to by Salem Country Club themselves. I don't know if any of you have driven down Forest Street lately, but there were some trees that were taken down along Forest Street on, I believe they were the Salem Country Club side. They were already taken down, so at this point, you know, it's after the fact. I did drive by today, and from what I could see, it looked like many of the trees were on the Salem Country Club side of their rock wall. It did look like there might have been one that was taken down that was kind of on the rock wall a little bit. I wanted to pose the question to the board that if they wish to have myself on behalf of the board write a letter to Salem Country Club asking them to come in to explain what they did and why they did not need a scenic hearing, if the board so chooses, but I just wanted to make the board aware of this.
Well, the trees inside their wall, that's their thing, but what's outside the wall falls under our purview. I'd like an explanation if something was removed without prior approval. Salem Country Club does that a lot. They act, then they look for permission. Sorry. So I'd like to see them come down and explain themselves.
We have a second on that?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Roy, were you looking?
Yeah, I'd like to, I don't know if this is a form of a motion, but could we send through the chair a letter or a memo to Mr. Langley and just enlighten him on the deadline dates for documents? Is that appropriate?
So,
Sure, I'll make that in the form of a motion.
I'll second that.
if you want to make this motion go through or not, but I can explain a little bit about this if you want, if you want to do this motion yet, or now.
I'd like to hear the explanation.
So, Bob Langley is the one that's reviewing every development project that's coming before the planning board, ZBA, that includes all the comprehensive permits and also includes the Conservation Commission. Bob is well aware of the deadlines and what we have, but, this is a way that, I know it's upsetting, sometimes when the planning board gets these things late, but again, Bob is reviewing all these projects. He's trying to get this stuff out as timely as possible. He wishes he could get this stuff out on Thursdays at noon, but sometimes it just doesn't work like that. I will also say that, him getting this in as a late ad means that 5054 Prospect is off our agenda now, rather not than, the same issue that we've heard is that we keep continuing things. So, this is a way that we can keep things moving forwards. And, Bob is very aware of these deadlines, but just with how these reviews go and the documents and how they get passed back and forth, it's hard to adhere to those sometimes.
Through the chair, does that mean that he's understaffed?
Yeah, I mentioned the same comment. He does have a staff to review some of these things and report to him.
Apparently, it's not an adequate enough staff to enable him to meet the deadlines in a better manner. What I heard you say is he's overwhelmed.
I would just say that, he's working on all these projects and that while we get the deadlines, it is up to the board as well if they wish to just not accept these things, and just push it on to the next meeting. You do not have to vote to accept late ads if you don't want to. But like I said, I'm sure Bob would have loved to get this memo done last week and on Thursday, but he was reviewing everything. He was, probably working on this project and another project, and, it came before you, and it closed this out, and, we were able to move things forward. So I think he's also trying to work on efficiency as well, that, he could have probably waited to next week to send this out to you, but again, that's keeping more things on the agenda for longer times as well.
Yeah, I think it's a little different on these closeout memos from Mr. Langley than it is from a developer submitting an edited drawing that no one has the time to review. It's subtle, but it is slightly different, because Bob's got the city's best interests at heart, and maybe the developer doesn't, so. All right, well, I guess I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, thank you. At this time, I'll accept another motion to adjourn.
Mr. Chairman, I would move to adjourn.
Do we have a second? We have a second. All those in favor? Unanimous. Thank you.